Over the years, I've had more than a few service members reach out to me about strange things they've encountered while training in remote areas. Deep woods, mountain ranges, places where you don't expect to see anyone for miles. Most of the time, the explanation is simple. Sleep deprivation, misidentified wildlife, the human mind trying to fill in gaps in the dark when you're running on fumes. But every now and then, a story comes across my desk that feels familiar. Here we find ourselves again. Multiple accounts from men serving in different branches of the military at different locations at different times. Men who describe encountering something with sallow, white skin that moves low to the ground and was watching them from just beyond the tree line. Something that might have looked human, but acted nothing like it. Was it stress, coincidence, or something else entirely? I'll let you decide. But their reported encounters are hardly the only ones we can read about. From Marines and soldiers training in the woods of Parris Island and Fort Knox and exploring the woods of West Virginia, these are their true stories of encounters with an entity commonly known as the rake, or pale crawler. I'm Luke LaManna, and this is Wartime Stories. All right, last point should be somewhere past this tree line. Oh, shit! Do you see it? Where the hell is it?
What is that? An alligator?
I don't know. Let's just keep moving. It's following us.
Don't stop, just keep going.
This first story was originally shared with Nick Orton, who runs the Tales from the Grid Square project. It takes place on a military installation at least half of my fellow Marines are very familiar with. Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Parris Island. Located off the coast of South Carolina, near the town of Port Royal, Parris Island is where all Marine recruits who live east of the Mississippi can expect to find themselves going through basic training. I myself was a West Coast recruit, Hollywood Marine, so I trained at MCRD San Diego, where the real Marines come from. Then again, I'd probably trade those hills in California for the horrible biting insects they have in South Carolina. We can all agree that boot camp was equally miserable for all of us, just in different ways. I had to laugh at this 5-star Google review left by a Marine who graduated from Parris Island back in 1996. You don't get much restful sleep, not much in the way of quality mealtime, communal showers, staff was visibly upset all the time, seemed to have anger issues. But they give you a rifle. All in all, would visit again. If there is one thing that unites all Marines, regardless of when they served, it's boot camp stories. It's actually kind of a cliche among Marines. Everyone gets sick of hearing boot camp stories, but yet everyone has so many of them to tell that they just keep popping up in conversation. Usually it's the funniest or worst thing that happened to them, or another recruit, while in boot camp. On an average day while doing field training in basic, the worst things you'd hear from a recruit coming out of the marshy pine forests of Parris Island might be a story about a water moccasin, an alligator, or probably worse, an angry drill instructor. But no animal like what this Marine describes is known to live there. What he encountered is arguably a boot camp story that falls under the heading of terrifying. He writes, January-February 2018 was roughly when my platoon ended up going through our basic warrior training phase, BWT. Yeah, boot camp stories, woohoo. At this point, the weather wasn't too terrible at Paris Island. I remember getting to the hooches for the first night and finding out I was on the 2 to 3 a.m. roving watch shift. Wasn't too pleased, but whatever, shit happens. Ended up getting woken up, started off my rove. It wasn't that bad overall, but I'd say around 0230, 0240, I got a really strong creepy vibe from one of the taped off areas of the woods behind our hooch. There was a light on the rear end of said hooch, and it was bright enough to just barely light up the tape running across the trees. I specifically remember getting the urge to look at one bush off to my left, so I sighted in on it to get a better look. Just as soon as I got my sight settled on that bush, I saw a pale, emaciated arm pop out, followed shortly by a gaunt, human-like face. Definitely some uncanny valley feels to it, very human-adjacent, but very wrong. It stayed low to the ground and then popped its head up, almost like it was watching me. The light from the back of the hooch was reflecting off its eyes, so the super creepy feeling just amplified from there. It was gone almost as soon as it popped up when the other rover walked around to me and asked me what was up. The thing ducked down and it crawled back amazingly quick. At this point, I already had a general idea of what I might have seen. I'm Native American, and the stories from my mom's side of the family have always stuck with me. I ended up passing it off as sleep deprivation, which was also extremely likely. Still, really freaking weird though. Fast forward to the following night, we were doing our nightland navigation portion of BWT, and I was ready to clock out. Me and my buddy ended up getting paired together, and we're making our way over to our second of 3 points. Hit the ammo can, got our stamp or hole punch or whatever it was, and we're heading back to our third point so we could finish up. We ended up walking past a circle of palm frond looking plants, the type that sound like plastic blinds when the leaves hit each other, and I brushed against the leaves. As soon as I did, I heard one of the most unsettling noises out of the woods I've probably ever heard. I've spent a lot of time outdoors and in the woods, but not much time down in the Carolinas, so also likely explainable. Definitely new to me though. It was a combination of a guttural hiss, growl, and groan, all at the same time. Instant nope, so we picked up the pace. But the entire way to our third point, something was following us. It sounded like it was on all fours, but extremely quick and decently heavy. It sounded like it was darting in between cover, but I didn't exactly turn around to verify. My buddy confirmed it was weird. Fast forward yet again to the Crucible, the last, final exercise of boot camp. I got stuck with road guards on our hike back from Page Field before the EGA ceremony where they give you your Eagle, Globe, and Anchor. So we were all the way at the front. Once again, I got a spooky vibe, and I decided to look over to my right. I see the same thing from the bushes in the taped-off portion of the woods from BWT, the face. It's slinking along the tree line, keeping pace with us. It was on all fours, pale skin, very long and emaciated limbs. Think of all the rake pictures you've ever seen, and that was basically it. I opted to turn my head back to the front and eventually down to watch the boots of the guy in front of me. Not sure if anyone else noticed it, but again, Could very well have been sleep deprivation or paranoia, who knows. When I finished training, I went home on my 10 days of boot leave, and I talked to some of the elders in my community. They didn't explicitly state what it was, but they did say that if that was indeed what was following me, there wasn't a whole lot that I could do to get rid of it. I could protect myself against it with certain medicine and prayers, but that was about it. May of 2015. Field training, Fort Knox, Kentucky. Platoon-sized patrol base, 2 men fighting positions. Expecting Op 4 role players, enemy operational forces, to hassle us all night. What time is it? Hold up. Is that... What the Hey! Wake up.
What?
Dude, wake up.
What?
Shh. Put your nods on. Slow. I need you to see something.
Where?
11 o'clock. Left of that log. Maybe 75 meters out. You see that gap? The face.
I don't.
Oh, shit.
What was that?
I don't know. Whatever it was, it had a face.
You mean it was...
No, that was not Op 4.
Was it an animal?
Bro, it had a face. So, what is it? Sleep deprivation, or the nightmarish reality of Native American folklore? Whatever these creatures are, what makes the stories more compelling for me is that their description often remains consistent across different encounters. As is indicated in this next story, emailed directly to me by a soldier serving in the U.S. Army. He writes, I had a strange incident at Fort Knox back around May of 2015. We were conducting M4 quals and doing extra training on the side to pass time and check boxes. Eventually it hits nighttime and the LT decides to do a platoon-sized patrol base in the woods for whatever reason. We get our spacing and have our 2-man teams. We were expecting the other platoon to mess with us throughout the night, so we were actually paying attention. On my shift around 1 a.m., I catch some movement around 75 meters out. Nothing really distinctive, but it caught my attention. I began to scan the area, trying to make sure it was actually the other platoon, the Op 4, or just an animal. As I started scanning from left to right, I saw a very obvious face looking at me, where a log and a tree met. Unnaturally pale. Even with the crappy nods, I could tell that. Oversized eyes, seemingly too big for the head. No hair, that I could tell. If it had ears, I don't remember seeing them. It had a weird jawline, like it was struggling to keep its mouth shut. It kept peeking up and down, looking our way. Finally, my buddy woke up and asked what was up. On hearing his voice, I assume, this thing froze and looked in his direction. I whispered as quietly as I could to put his nods on and told him where to look. as soon as he did, that thing booked it. The sound of it crashing around like that caused us both to jump. The next day we debated on saying anything, but trying to tell people you saw a ghoul, ghost, or whatever isn't exactly the easiest thing to explain. We ultimately decided to keep it to ourselves. Still, no idea what it was.
Mike, I don't like this. Can we go?
It's just an abandoned house, babe. Don't worry about it. You want to see what's behind door number 3?
But...
Okay, all right, come on. Let's just look in this last room, and then we'll go. What the...
Mike, let's go.
Yeah. I saw it. Just go. Try to move quietly. Damn it.
Mike!
Go.
This final story can be found in Ethan Hayes' book, Encounters in the Woods, Volume 6. In it, a Marine veteran who we'll call Mike recalls a terrifying incident that happened to him just prior to enlisting. Like the soldier in the previous encounter, he says he still has no idea what he saw, but the memory of it has bothered him ever since. He writes, "For those who have grown up back east in the country, many will be familiar with the occasional abandoned house that still stands. These are relics, some dating back to the 1920s or so, and left to rot. Before I enlisted in the Marines, after graduating college, these were places my friends and I would visit to dig for old trinkets to collect, like mason jars or rare coins. Growing up in the Tidewater area of Virginia, it felt like there was never a shortage of these old homes, and I personally enjoyed checking them out. When I went to college in West Virginia, my days of searching out these places had given way to partying and chasing girls. One of these girls I was interested in liked to go hiking, so I found myself doing just that. It was a gorgeous spring day. The temperature was perfect, hovering around the high 60s, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. A picture-perfect bluebird day. She had heard about a cool trail about an hour south of Morgantown. So with a day pack filled with water, snacks, and a blanket to rest or picnic along the way, we headed out. If anyone is familiar with West Virginia, they'll know how mountainous it is, so the trail would no doubt present some physical challenges and changes in elevation. We started in and had no problem the first hour. Then we started down along a creek, and to my surprise, we found an old abandoned house. There were signs of an old road or drive, now covered with trees. By the looks of the place, it had been easily abandoned for over half a century. Curious, I wanted to go in and have a look. My girlfriend objected at first, but after a bit of coaxing, I got her to say yes. We made our way up to the front porch, or what was left of it, as it was rotten. Unable to safely get in through the front door, we made our way to the back, where we found a stack of cinder blocks making a small staircase. This wasn't the original, and told me that people had come back and visited this place at some point. We scaled the blocks and entered through the old, rotting and weathered back door. We were now standing in the kitchen, which surprisingly still looked like one. The cabinets, while in decay, still hung on the walls, and an old wood-burning stove was tucked in the corner. I immediately took notice, as most of these old stoves were removed by collectors, but this one was still there, and I noticed it seemed to have been recently used. On the counter, I saw some wrappers and empty potato chip bags, another sign that people had been there recently. I wasn't surprised by this. As I said, I often visited these abandoned homes when I was a kid. I opened a couple of cabinets only to find rotting packages or old tin cans of food. I hadn't noticed my girlfriend had moved on to the next room until she called out for me to go in there. By the tone in her voice, I could sense something was off. I hurried out of the kitchen and could see her face was ashen and her eyes were wide like saucers. I asked her what was wrong, but before she replied, I saw what she was so scared of. In the corner of what was the dining room was a pile of bones. Not human bones, but bones of animals. I think they were mostly deer, but I saw some dogs and even cat skulls in there as well. My girlfriend was ready to leave, but I wanted to keep looking. I know you may be thinking that we were trespassing, but at the time, my thought was that if a homeless person was here, we had just as much right to be there as they did. I took her hand and told her we'd be safe and asked her to come upstairs with me. She resisted, but again, eventually gave in. Looking back, I wish she had been more forceful. Or maybe I should have been less stupid, as it would have saved our relationship, and would have saved me the endless nightmares and therapy I've had to endure since. With her hand in mine, we exited the dining room and made our way up through the empty living and family rooms. From there, we started up the stairs. The walls at one time had been covered in wallpaper, which was now faded, some of it covered in mold or peeling off the wall. The railing for the stairs wasn't too bad, minus a few balusters that were broken or missing. We found 3 rooms on the upper floor. The one at the far end had its door closed, and the other 2 were open enough that we could see inside. There was nothing in them but broken bottles and trash. On one wall was a pentagram. Like, what's with old homes and pentagrams? I could tell by her gripping my arm that my girlfriend was now very scared, and I'll admit, I was now a bit on edge. But I also felt that tinge of excitement. We made our way to the bedroom with the closed door. I turned the knob and slowly pushed it open. I remember the door creaking like something straight out of a horror movie. The room had a mattress on the floor, and on it, we saw a person sleeping. My girlfriend almost screamed, but managed to stop herself. I wasn't quite sure what we were looking at, because it didn't appear to be exactly human. Whatever it was naked, and its skin was very pale. I vividly recall it being bald. My girlfriend was tugging on my arm and motioning with her head like, "We need to leave." I'm not sure what it was lying there, but it struck me with enough fear to want to immediately turn around and get the hell out. So that's what we did. We turned around and started heading for the stairs. We were moving quickly, but also trying to be careful not to make any noise. But then I kicked a bottle, and it perfectly just slipped through the space between the 2 balusters and fell to the wooden floor on the first level. It smashed. I swear to this day, that was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. And when it broke, we heard rustling coming from behind us, the bedroom, where the weird person thing was. My girlfriend lets out a scream and sprints for the stairs. I was right behind her. So she's racing down the stairs, but before she reaches the bottom, she trips and falls face first onto the floor, hitting her chin. I come down and I pick her up. When she looked up, she lets out another scream. I look up and see that this thing is now standing at the top of the stairs. It's about 5.5 feet. It had a normal-sized abdomen, and its arms were extraordinarily long. Nothing about this thing looked human. It then opens its mouth and screams. My girlfriend is now sprinting for the kitchen and the back door with me right behind her, and I could hear that this thing was coming down the stairs after us. My heart was racing so hard, I thought I was going to have a heart attack. So we sprint through the kitchen and out the back door. My girlfriend doesn't even stop to go down the cinder block steps. She just leaps from the doorway, and I do the same. We took off running, but not towards the way we'd come in. We went the opposite way along the old road. I heard the thing as it got to the back door, and it screamed again, but I didn't have it in me to look back. I felt that if the thing was going to follow us, I'd hear it, but I didn't. We ran and ran for maybe about 10 minutes until we're both out of breath and just collapsed on the ground in exhaustion. Through deep breaths, my girlfriend she keeps asking me what this thing was. I just kept saying, I don't know. And the fact was, I didn't know. It was very much human-like, but also not. Its skin was pale, white, and it didn't have any hair. We waited for about an hour, then decided to make our way back. We didn't plan on taking the road, but instead we climbed a large hill to the left of it, which would give us the elevation we could use to see, and it would also put some distance between us and the house. As we made our way up, I kept the house in my field of view, which was then about 100 or so yards away. I didn't see any movement until we got to the top of the hill. I told my girlfriend to stop so we could take some cover behind a large fallen oak tree. And I'm peering down and I see the creature running around the house, but it wasn't on two legs. Instead, it was racing around on all fours. Around and around it's going, and it would stop and it would lift its head, and I swear it acted like it was sniffing the air. It would then continue this crazy circling of the house. Then it came around the back of the house, but instead of continuing to circle, as it had been doing, it went over to what looked like an old brick well. It jumps up on the edge and then disappears down inside it. And I'm shocked by this. I'm thinking, why on earth is it going down into the well? My girlfriend didn't care and desperately wanted to keep moving as we were still an hour away from the car. I was curious up until this thing reappears with another creature. Now there were two of them. I'd seen enough. We both got up and started running again, sprinting. We ran and ran and ran. And what had taken an hour to hike took us maybe 20 minutes to run. We burst from the woods, our faces covered in sweat and some blood from cuts we got from branches as we pushed through some thick brush. Everything seemed surreal, and I don't know if I was just dizzy from the exhaustion, but my vision was blurry and felt like I was going to faint. I told my girlfriend this. She took the keys from me and started the car. We spun out of there and onto the county road. When we got back to the dorms, she wouldn't even look at me, much less talk to me. I asked if she wanted me to stay with her, and she said no. She broke up with me the following week. I tried numerous times to talk with my now ex-girlfriend about this, but she didn't want anything to do with me or what we'd experienced. I was curious, though, and wanted to find out what those creatures could have been. All I can guess is that they were rakes or pale crawlers and most likely lived underground. I figured the well was dry and was an access for them. I never went back and warned anyone I knew who talked about hiking to stay clear of that area, but I never told them what I saw. I just said I'd seen a mountain lion along the trail and kept it at that. But over the years, I couldn't help but think about others who may have come face to face with them. And if they did, had they been hurt or worse? This curiosity led me to go back. However, this time I was going with some capable friends and guns. My good friend Brad, a former MP in the Army, and Tim, who was a Marine, both joined me. I shared my story with them, and like others, they simply thought that my old girlfriend and I had seen some inbred homeless people. But nevertheless, they agreed to come with me to check it out. The second we pulled off the county road to the trailhead, I knew something was off. Where the trailhead used to be was a sign which warned us to stay out, private property. I didn't recall the trail ever being on private property, and I couldn't help wondering if something bad happened that would make them close the path to the public. Instead of turning us away, that sign only fueled our curiosity and desire to see what was going on. We easily navigated around the sign and made our way into the woods. The time of year was the same as last, making for some déjà vu moments as we hiked the trail, which had become overgrown. As we got closer, the tension of this moment got very real, and we all became very quiet. Tim was a smartass and tried to diffuse the tension with some jokes. Brad, on the other hand, was very serious, and I could see that his expression had become stern and focused.
Hold up. Is that it?
I didn't remember seeing an old foundation there before. We'd been hiking for close to an hour at that point, and I was just starting to wonder if I'd misremembered the location entirely. It was a foundation, bricks. The footprint made sense. You could see the corners, the layout, but the house itself was completely gone. Not collapsed, not rotted away. Gone.
Is this the well?
I saw what Tim was pointing at, a circular ring of brick near the edge of the foundation. It looked exactly how I remembered it. Yeah, that's it.
It's filled in.
They hadn't just torn the house down. They'd filled the well with debris from the demolition, bricks, timber, tree limbs, whatever they could find. That told me a lot. If someone had gone through the trouble of burying the well, it wasn't just to clean up the property. It made me wonder whether people had come here and run into the same things we had.
Well, you weren't lying about the house.
Told you. The well's right where I'd said it'd be. As far as the physical details went, everything lined up with my story. Same layout, same well, same stretch of woods. We ended up sitting there for nearly an hour, just eating, drinking water, letting the woods settle around us. At first, all I wanted to do was head back, but we'd come that far, and I decided I wasn't ready to leave yet.
You want to check around a little more?
Yeah, let's take a look. We first headed up the old drive for a way, but found nothing of note. Then went off the drive about 100 yards on either side, but still didn't find anything worth mentioning. We found ourselves back at the house's foundation, but noticed something out of place. On the south corner of the foundation was the skull of what looked like a cat. We looked at each other, kind of puzzled and a bit weirded out, and we started asking one another if that was there before. And we all agreed it hadn't been. A loud crack, like a large branch snapping, came from the north. We craned our heads in the direction of the sound but couldn't see anything. At this point, Tim is suggesting that we just move on. His typical laid-back, nonchalant attitude was nowhere to be seen. Brad wasn't the one to run from a fight, so he pulls out his semi-automatic pistol. I, for one, was with Tim and told Brad we should go, but Brad said no. He clearly wanted to confront whatever this was. Tim and I are both strongly urging him to come with us, and he finally gives in. But as we turn to leave, something starts hitting us, and we realize there is like a hail of bones being thrown at us. That was enough for me. I turned and sprinted back down the trail towards the truck with Tim right on my heels, but not Brad. I stopped and looked back at him. He looked pissed. and he just levels his pistol in the direction of the woods where the bones are coming from and just starts firing. Watching Brad standing there holding his ground, I guess me and Tim just felt inspired to do the same. So we go back. Brad was on his second mag when we joined him and started firing into the tree line. After a minute, we stopped and listened. The bones had stopped being thrown, and there was silence. Brad moved first and headed into the trees, moving in the direction of where the bones had been coming from. We had our pistols up and ready as we pushed our way through this thick brush and eventually came out the other side. There, we found a large hole in the ground, wide enough for a man to crouch and disappear inside.
You seeing this?
We knew exactly what it was, and we knew exactly where it would lead to. Brad was fired up. For a second, I thought he might crawl straight into this thing like some kind of Vietnam tunnel rat. But instead,
I think we made our point. Can we go now?
Yeah, let's go.
that was it. We all turned and headed back. I was expecting to have more bones thrown, or at least hear those things following us, but everything stayed quiet. We got back to the truck, loaded in, and headed for the first bar we could find. Over a cold beer at the bar, we talked about what had happened and came to a conclusion. There were others that knew about these things, which explains why the house was destroyed. Our aggression that day probably scared whatever these things were. But one thing still bothers me. If there were two, there are probably more. Wartime Stories is created and hosted by me, Luke Lamanna. Written by Jake Howard and myself. Audio editing, sound design, mixing, mastering, and production coordination by Alex Carpenter, with additional audio work by me. Animation and motion design by Hot Sauce Video. Research by Jake Howard and myself. Artwork by Picata. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around here for the after action and the credits. Rakes, wraiths, pale crawlers. It's either a hairless Bigfoot, some kind of creepy alien, or, I don't know, demons just trolling hikers out in the woods. I saw a depiction of a hairless Chewbacca on an episode Aqua Teen Hunger Force one time, and that looked like it. I can't help but notice, I've never read a rake or really any creature story from an airman. Not in the woods, anyway. Every Air Force field training story starts with, after we checked in at the hotel. Maybe that's why. Stay tuned for the next horrifying episode titled The Airman and the Hotel with Only 4 Stars. The quality of the towels left me scarred for life. I'm haunted by the lack of chocolates on my pillows, which I'd come to expect. The breakfast was hardly continental. I didn't eat or sleep well for days. To my Airman brothers, of course, I love you. We make fun of the Air Force because, well, deep down, we all wish that we had joined the Air Force, where the majority of the DoD, or should I say the DOW budget goes, where the only handicap you're left with when you leave active service is your golf handicap. Not sure if I've told this story before, but here goes. I blew out a tire, kind of like I blew my back out in the Marine Corps. I blew out a tire on my bike one day while I was cycling, and I had to walk to a nearby bike shop to repair it. A really nice guy that worked there. He didn't have the right size inner tube for the bike, so he patched it for free. We started talking. Turns out he was an airman. We made the jokes. He asked me what my favorite flavor of crayon was. It's green, by the way, pine green or jungle green, if I can get it. But I asked him if it really was true, if all of the Air Force bases were as nice as they say, and the ones that I had seen. You know, golf course, nice barracks, restaurants, movie theater. And he said no, not really. There are some pretty bad ones, which piqued my interest. I said, really? Like where? And he said the worst one he'd ever been on was in South Korea. And I'm thinking, okay, I've been to Korea. It's not a third world country. It's actually kind of nice. So I asked him, well, what was so bad about it? And he paused, and then he said, the course only had 9 holes. If you wanted to play the full 18, you had to do the course twice. I made sure to thank him for his sacrifice to our country. With that, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing, liking, sharing, commenting, everything and anything you guys do to help support this show. We here at Wartime Stories sincerely appreciate it. As always, a huge shout out to both our patrons and our YouTube channel members for your incredible ongoing support. May God be with each and every one of you, no matter what you were dealing with. And I will see you in the next episode.